Hi guys, how's it going? All good on the tech front. I hope you can see me and hear me loud and clear. It's been an active couple of days to say the least after the Irfan InstaLive. Yeah, it's obviously a couple of his comments have picked up and gone viral uh, on social media, but that's good. He's one of the few people that I could have that conversation with. So yeah, I'm quite happy that the Irfan comments have been listened to and heard by a lot of people. And who knows, yeah, even if one or two sportsmen watching that feel like, okay, now it's time to perhaps speak out on issues, and whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be in accordance with what Irfan says or what I say or what you say. Just, speak up and stand up for what you believe for. That's something that I definitely, advocate all the time. Please call MSD today. It's not like it's not like I just get onto the show and just dial a number, right? So I can't call MSD today. I have never met MS Dhoni, the great MS Dhoni, unfortunately. Have met Kohli, have met a lot of the current day players, but have never met MS. But anyway, Sharang, gotta ask him stories about his grandfather, the great Dennis Compton. Yeah, it's hard, yeah, sometimes to be in the lineage of such an illustrious, a line of people that have already done so much, and it's so much harder to live up to those standards. So rarely will we see those stories match up one generation to another. So yeah, while I'm sure he has some great stories about his time with the great Dennis Compton, yeah, we'll see where we can get to with that. He's had a tough couple of years, hasn't he, Nick Compton? He retired through mental health last year. It's perhaps not a bad time to discuss even that. It's in keeping again. Caro, time for a haircut. You bet, Caro. I'll just have to go at it myself. It doesn't look like salons opening anytime soon. Praveen Karuvar wants to know if I'm a lefty. No, I'm a righty, man. I can, my left hand and my left feet are just like, my left foot is just to stand on, and my left hand as well. Anyway, how did he transition to photography? Has he? Okay, that's interesting. I'll ask him that. Hello to Argha Soham. When are you calling Anshul? Yeah. Sure, so this is an inside cricket joke that we've got in my cricket group. Let's hope my cricket resumes. I don't know how many of you have started playing again, wherever you're watching from. If you think that sport is back in your parts, then let me know. Yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to more than anything. I don't care as much about international cricket coming back as I do about just playing. So the wonderful Mr. Karthik is here. I thought he might join us today. And on cue, Nick Compton is here as well. So let's get him on right away. Karthik's here at good time, in pretty good time. So hello, mates.
Hello.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer. You got to fix your internet. You got to fix your internet, Compo. I've
Is
not
it a
got you
bad?
loud and clear. Shocking. Third world country, the United
How's
Kingdom.
that? How's that?
That's better. That's much
Hey,
better. Now I can see your pretty face. How's it going, mate? Good to see you.
yeah. Well, I'm in South Africa at the moment. It's winter time, but South Africa in winter is probably a bit like India in winter. It's still good weather.
Oh, you're in South
So
Africa now, so that explains the dodgy internet then. My apologies to
exactly,
the UK.
exactly. Yeah, we're lucky to have anything at
It's
all.
it's still not ideal. So I'm gonna hope that this fixes itself, or if you want me to sort of cut and call you back, or if you want to, are you at the best possible Wi-Fi?
Is it not great, huh?
No, it's not good. I can hear you fine.
Let me try
Yeah,
you in one. Let me try you in 1 minute. I'll just try and move.
I'll. All right, I'll cut you off. Okay, I'll keep you
Cool.
on. Let's see if it gets better on its own.
Okay. Oh, trying to find the
South
best
Africa,
place.
I've already got a comment saying South Africa will take offense to my comment. Oh, come on. I don't care.
No, they won't. They won't take offense. I think
Yeah.
there's a reality to it, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, I did have the only other South African that's joined me has been good old Daryl Cullinan a few weeks back, and he was pretty good. So, all right, let's have, how's this now? Okay, this looks better. So far,
Is
so
it?
good. Say something, Compo.
Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3. You're a very, very good looking man. Love the growth. Love the growth.
Ah, thank you. Thank you.
Lockdown growth.
It's all yeah, it is a lockdown growth, man. It's inspired by what Indian cricket's done over the last few years. You need to have a beard to be a permanent member of the team. Otherwise, the clean shaven guys don't stand a chance. Now you're in crystal clear high definition. So now you're brilliant. No, it's good to see you,
Beautiful.
mate. You look lovely.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I don't feel great. I just had 2 operations to my
Yeah.
hips. So, yeah, getting there. It's going to be a slow journey. But all those forward defenses that I played, put a lot of
Yeah.
pressure on the left hip, and leaving off the front foot. So yeah, it's been a long time coming. And I'm just glad that it's done and fixed, and hopefully I can get back fit, because the most important thing now is the golf swing.
Oh, right. Okay.
As
I was going to
as my
ask you
good
what's
friend Murli Kartik will attest to, we've
yeah.
had many a tussle on the golf course. He still thinks he's Tiger Woods, but maybe when I come back over, I'll let him know that he's not quite there yet.
Yeah, that sums up Murli Karthik. And I assure you, you've now opened the door for him, right? He doesn't even need an invitation to start commenting on this. And he is watching, we know that. So he just joined in before you. So Karthik, fire away, give Kampo your best shot. But no, I'm glad to hear. I did see the posts about you undergoing surgery. And it's nice to know that you're recuperating well. And I'm glad you mentioned the golf, because I'd hate for you to get back to those forward defenses if that's what it took out of you. But tell me what's keeping you busy, Kampo? How's lockdown been outside of course, all the challenges with surgery? Have you been keeping well?
Yeah, I've been keeping well. I think lockdown in many ways has been quite refreshing. A chance to spend some time with family, something I probably haven't done for some time. I at one stage, though, I wasn't sure whether coronavirus was going to get us or whether one of the family members was going to kill each other, because we were getting on top of each other, and it was. I think 1 month is good. 2 months you're pushing it, and then you're pushing into the third month, and it's just getting a bit much. But no, look, it was nice. Spending that time at home. Just doing simple things. Life's been pretty on the go, living in London, and you know what life's like there. It's probably a bit like Mumbai in the sense that everything is just fast paced. So spending some time at home. I'm doing a master's at the moment. So I'm trying to complete that in leadership and sport.
Wow.
Through the humanities of sport at Buckingham University. So trying to make sure that I'm not just a retired cricketer. I actually have managed to rewire some of the circuits in here that went a bit quiet over a few years. And then we're helping a charity out here while I'm here, 67 blankets. A lady by the name of Carolyn Stain joined up with Nelson Mandela before he passed. And it was to basically commemorate Nelson Mandela Day. So what we do is, and what people all over South Africa and the UK do, is they make these blankets and these scarves and very kindly donate them to some of the poor homeless communities. Particularly as it's coming into winter, there's a lot of people who don't have shelter, who don't have homes, so it keeps them warm. And so I've really enjoyed that. It's a fantastic charity, wonderful cause. So it's keeping me busy at the moment, but I've got to head back to the UK soon, probably in about 5 weeks' time. I'm still an ambassador at Middlesex, so helping the club there on a more sort of semi-permanent basis. But still very interested in elite performance and supporting young players, mentoring young players.
I'm blown away. There are so many things I want to talk to you about, and that's just brilliant. There are 4 or 5 things you said in that. And firstly, I'm delighted to see what you're doing to make the world a better place. It comes as no surprise to me, the time that I have spent with you. I could also sense it's been a big year for you, a tough year, and I saw that through the posts that you put out. And I could see a sense of wanting to give back. And I think that's just top class. Let me cover all of that in just a bit. Before that, Murli Karthik is going to keep posting his sledge if I don't read it out up front. So he's fired his first arm ball. He says, this is just like Kampo's opinion of his batting and cricket. I'm not sure of that, whether that one landed, Nick. You've got to try, Karthik. You've got to try harder. You can do better than that. Go on, Kampo.
He always comes hard at me. He was very much a mentoring figure when I was at Middlesex and Somerset. But I think it was all the big cars that he had at the clubs and the property that he had overlooking Lords. He had too good a time of it. So I'm looking forward to him inviting me to DLF for playing his
Yeah.
golf course. I keep seeing pictures of him there, and he's had far more practice than I have. So look, there's no excuses, Kartik.
That's all that he's actually been up to since his cricket has been done. And in fact, if anything, Murli Karthik should be the poster boy for life after cricket, because I think in a few years from now, his golf career is going to completely outshine, outclass, and maybe outlive his cricket career. That
The
might be
senior
wiped out.
tour. The
Yeah.
senior tour. There's still chance. There's still life in the old dog. Eh?
Karthik says, no one knows him more than me. 6 years playing with him. Karthik, I expect a few rougher deliveries. Come on now. You've been very harsh on some of my previous guests when you've sabotaged their InstaLive with your sharp comments. So let's see where this goes, right? But we'll keep. I want to come back to some of the things that you did mention, though. So a master's degree in leadership in sports. So I can totally see a couple of books authored by Nick Compton in the next few years. Is that part of the plan?
Yeah, I think a book would be good. Probably not in the autobiographical sense, because I didn't captain my country and perhaps go on to do some of the things I would have liked to. But I think there's other interesting facets to a sports career. I think one in which I grew up in a sort of multicultural country like South Africa. I think coming back to my roots as such has been quite fascinating, quite interesting. It's very much a changing sort of demographic here, and I think to go away and pursue a cricket career in London, came with its own challenges. I've had a family challenge as well, where I have a sister who's paralyzed, who's in a wheelchair, and I think dealing with disability as a family has been incredibly tough as well. So I think I'd like to think that there are different facets to any journey, any career, and I think sport was obviously the one that I pursued, and I think also the whole side of elite performance, what we go through as players. I think mental health has been something that has really challenged me over the last 5 or 6 years, and I guess I was one of those people growing up. I had mental health challenges as a young kid and probably didn't really understand it. I think it was more just a case of getting through each situation each day. And then maybe you sort of get a bit older and maybe there's a little bit more perspective on some of those struggles. And I think you suddenly realize, and I think what happened was I realized that actually things weren't quite right. And I think things sort of caught up on me. And that can happen in any business and obviously in professional sport, it can get highlighted because of the pressure you're under. And I realized just being on the field towards the latter stages of my career that things weren't quite right, and it was tough. It's tough to probably admit to yourself because, as a sportsman, you keep plugging on. You want to be successful. You want to be confident. You want people to see you that way. And when you're not, it's quite easy to be self-critical, and try and say, come on, what's wrong with you? Come on, keep going. Where's your confidence? And I think, it takes quite a bit to sort of stop yourself, and say, things aren't quite right. I need some help. And that's a hard thing for anyone to do, I think. But I've kind of come to terms with it. And I think it's just now about sort of moving past and beyond my past, my cricket career, and trying to look forward. As you say, helping other people and doing some of the photography and charity work I've done has definitely been a good way to connect with some of your more creative side of your brain. And it gets you away from thinking too much about, the past.
Yeah, I had saved this for perhaps a little later, but since you mentioned it, I'd love to talk about it straight away. When I started this series of InstaLives, it was essentially to, catch up with some wonderful people that I've had the good fortune of meeting and working with in these past years. It's been a time of perspective for everyone, hasn't it? The lockdown.
Absolutely.
You look back and you value what you've already witnessed and experienced rather than worry too much about what an uncertain future holds. And among those things, I mainly did this to put a smile on people's face and try to explore the fun side, the lighter side. Because cricket seems so small in these times, right? If anything, it's been told that sport isn't as big as what we made it out to be. At least, I mean, we want it back, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And the other thing was, and that's why when I had Irfan on last week, things that really matter is something that I'd love to discuss. And when I had Irfan, we spoke of, cricketers or sportsmen taking stands as influencers to try and set the right message, being responsible. The one thing I'd love to talk to you about, and you've already mentioned it, it's an important subject, and mental health is not spoken enough of in any sphere of life, but certainly not in our sport. And, it takes perhaps a high profile tragedy, which it did, recently in India. I don't know how much you've read about the news,
I did.
a superstar, an Indian film superstar.
Yeah.
We think from the outside as the prime of his career, and it takes a high-profile suicide to once again discuss these challenges that, and more discussions, more conversations on mental health. I want to talk to you about mental health in sport. In our sport, in cricket, you've had these tough years behind you, and you've come through them, and there's a lot to look forward to, like we've already discussed in the first few minutes of this. But from what you've seen, Kampo, what can our sport do to make it better for those that that suffer through mental health?
I think it's a very interesting question. I think the big issue, or should I say the talking point for me is, I think obviously mental health is more prevalent nowadays. I think there's no doubt that players are talking more about it. It's obviously written about in a way where one can be more open. I still think that the stigma exists in some ways.
Yep.
I still think that in many cricket clubs and many cricket viewers, there's still quite an old school mentality. And I attest to probably having that old school mentality myself, coming through the ages. I didn't really understand mental health and what it was like. I played with Marcus Trescothick, who was somebody who spoke up, and he was probably one of the first to do it. And I never quite understood, what he was going through. And then I guess 2 years later, I suddenly remember looking at myself in the mirror and going, you're not healthy, you're not well at the moment, and there was a difference, between feeling down or having a bad day. This was something different. I felt like things weren't well. And, I did speak about it. I did talk about it, but I still think, when we actually really get down to it, it's hard to know what, sort of higher management or people in positions of strength and power are really thinking, and, I can't control that. No one else can for that matter, but I think it can impact you, because if you're a business and you've got someone with mental health, I think the inclination is it's high maintenance, it's hard work. And you'd probably, being cynical about it, you'd probably want somebody without mental health problems. I mean, let's be honest. So I can kind of understand both sides of the coin, but I do feel that it's fundamentally about putting into people, and I think with cricket and sport, we're so focused, both individually and coaches and management are so focused on performance and outcome. There's a lot of pressures now. You look at the IPL contracts and what have you, there's huge pressures. And I think sometimes we can move away from the human being, we can move away from what that person is really about as a person, and I think that for me has probably been the perspective I've gained, is in terms of my own mentoring, is trying to make young people feel safe, feel like that they can talk about their doubts, their fears, their lack of confidence, because, as a sportsman, you're in this professional world, you're in the hot zone, if you want to call it, where you're trying to be confident, you're trying to display an image of
bravado,
calmness, of course, and there are times where you have to be like that, on the field. But I also think there's times where, to be able to actually really feel like someone's got your back, feel like, I'm really out of confidence at the moment. That's normal. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you shouldn't get picked for the next game. It doesn't mean, so I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think there's a lot of work to be done in not just paying lip service, let's not just pay lip service and say mental health and we support mental health, but actually, are you really supporting it? What measures are we actually doing to make sure that player, feels more supported, feels like he's got people around him? So I think that's probably the biggest area.
Yeah, I mean, I think from whatever I've gathered, talking to people and reading, there's so much out there that you can read and learn about. You've got to almost treat it with the same level of concern and, ease as you treat a physical injury, right? So I'd love for one day for a dressing room to have, if there's a young kid saying, I'm struggling with my calf, or I'm struggling with my shoulder, or I'm struggling, for him to just come up and say the exact same thing when it comes to, I'm struggling with something to do with mental health. The reaction, the care, it all should follow through almost as easily. It's like if you go tell someone as a sportsman that, I'm struggling with my hamstring, that's it. The next day, everyone knows what they need to do. Whereas I think out here, it's a bit harder to get that. So I'm trying to think of if there was one fix, and I know there isn't one, but would it be every team having a counselor or a mental health professional? Would it be education at a very early part, at the early stages, the grassroots of cricket? If you had to pinpoint one, what do you think now that you can look back at your career?
I think it's a very, very, very good question. I think I'm going to say two things. I think growing up, I think absolutely youth cricket development. I think it's absolutely key to have more education. I think that's a no-brainer. I think that's something that really does need to be instilled from an early age. I think in terms of the actual immediate environment, I think many clubs, many teams now have sports psychologists in the side. The one thing I've found with that sports psychologist is it's all very well having him, but if you're not going to utilize him in the right way, then I think it's useless, you know. And in previous teams I've played in, we've often had sports psychologists, but perhaps the coach or the director of cricket hasn't really understood this new position of having a psychologist within the changing room, you know. But perhaps the dynamic is a bit misunderstood, or don't really know how they can get the most out of each other. I think if you've got a sports psychologist, he's got to be given the mandate or the remit to really get involved, to supplement certain sessions, and to also have a communication basis with the coach, that there's a lot of honesty. Because, you know, I found when I was playing for England, you know, and there were some struggles on tour, no doubt, and there was a part of me that wanted to talk to the sports psychologist, but then you also knew the coach was using the sports psychologist to mentally, you know, work out where the team was, where individuals were, and what have you. So you couldn't really work out whether you were being self-analyzed or whether he was there confidentially for you. So I think I think having a sports psychologist or a counselor is absolutely imperative. I really believe that. But I also believe the boundaries and the lines of communication need to be very clear, because players opening up and feeling safe is a very subtle art. You know, it doesn't just happen. Relationships take time, as you'll know, with very good friends, and, you know, we've all lost relationships here and there, and I think it takes time to build that trust.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I'm so glad that I think there are more and more people that are making the right noises, making the right sound. So let's hope to that. And I remember the last piece that Martin Crowe wrote for ESPN Cricinfo was almost a toast and a plea for a kinder and a gentler sport. And I think that's essentially where we should look to go. And this was 2015, 15, 16, you know, towards the end. But anyway, great. So I'm delighted we've had that chat. Let's take some comments now. There's a lot of fun stuff that I want to talk to you about as well.
Cool.
And, there was one that came a little while back from Suresh, a colleague of mine now at Cricinfo, and he says, please ask Nick to tell us some stories about the Arsenal legend Dennis Compton, because I know that's one way of describing him, because he says that'll be something close to your heart as well. Yes, now I am an Arsenal tragic, is what we call ourselves these days. And
it's not great of late, is it?
I wish the Premier League wouldn't come back. I don't know why they had to bring it back. They didn't need to bring it back. We would have had 2 wins here. We would have had Liverpool's thing going null and void, and I wouldn't have had to see Arsenal do Arsenal things on the very first day after the Premier League's back. But I mean, there's always that. There are plenty of stories that go around with the great Dennis Compton. Firstly, you're a football fan as well, aren't you?
Yeah, Arsenal, big Arsenal fan.
Yeah, big Arsenal fan.
But it's been a tricky time for them. I think there's a common. I think Arteta is somebody that I really like. I think he's the right man. I get a good feeling about him.
Sure.
But look, you know, he's inherited something that's not going to change overnight, and it'd be interesting to get your thoughts as well. I mean, I think they do need to make an investment or two. I think we've been saying that since the Wenger days. And, you know, we've got some very exciting players, etc. We always have, and I think we always play a style of football that's exciting. But I think to really compete, we need a stronger squad.
I mean, the thing is that we discuss this to death, right? But every time there's an Arsenal team, why are there always selections that you think what's going on there? And that happened throughout Unai Emery, and that happened towards the end of Wenger. And you thought Arteta would fix that, and maybe you can give him the benefit of doubt. He knows better what the players are looking like when they come back. But when I saw that team against Man City, you just went, there's no chance, you know. They played well, I'll give them that, and but for a couple of errors and some bad injuries and whatnot, maybe. But you just think, you know, sometimes are you going to keep going back to that, you know, the sort of teams that he keeps putting out. So I just hope that some of our top players that we've got look at Arteta and feel the same way you and I do. That yes, this is a man we can hold on to, we can wait with. Because if we lose Aubameyang and we lose a couple of big ones again, then you suddenly have to fill holes everywhere, right? Right now, we know there are gaps in defense, but I don't know, I really don't know. And just like that, I lost you. Yeah, I got you back now. Yeah, go on.
Fans, you got me. No, fans buy into ambition, and you want to see the club ambitious, and sometimes, the words pre-season don't quite match up to where the checkbook's going. It's all very well a director of football or cricket or anyone saying, yeah, we want to win 3 trophies. But if you sign Joe Bloggs and as opposed to Sachin Tendulkar, you kind of got to put your money where your mouth is, if you know what I'm saying. So, saying that we're doing all the right things in training and we're doing it, I mean, let's be honest, teams are professional now. Everyone's doing the right thing in training. Everyone's eating the right food. Everyone's training as hard as anyone else. But fundamentally, there needs to be some investment. Without world-class players, you can't have a world-class team. And we've got a couple, but I think to really challenge, we need more.
All right. Karthik, he put this up a while back. I don't know if he's still around or we've scared him away, Karthik, with our interesting conversation. He doesn't like interesting conversation, does he? And he says, I have given Compo more love than to my family members in life. Now, I don't know why Karthik does this. That speaks more to Karthik than it does to you. And I feel for Shweta and but anyway.
I love Shweta. I love Shweta. Yeah. How she's still there, God only knows. Hey?
Yeah, but, there's an award that needs to be instituted to Shweta, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, this is one that's come in, and I won't read it out in the British sense that it's come, but I did want to talk about this. There are plenty of questions and comments coming in. Please ask him to talk about the Kohli incident, and that's come in light of, I think you spoke a bit on a podcast recently. I remember us discussing it when you were here in Mumbai all those years back. So let's get it out there now, and let's for you to retell that story. Is it true then that you and the Indian captain didn't get off on the best foot at your first social interaction?
No, it was a bit of a baptism of fire, should I say. I thought coming to India and making a debut here was hard enough, facing Ashwin first ball of a test match and Jadeja and Zahir Khan, and you had Tendulkar and Sehwag behind me, everyone. But we went out one night and it was a funny story, with KP took me out into Mumbai, this is during the tour, and Yuvraj was out and there was some pretty ladies that joined us, and I got chatting to one of them, and she said, "Oh, you must know my ex-boyfriend Virat Kohli." And I said, "Well, I don't know him that well, but we're going to be playing cricket against him." So anyway, we had a good night. It was we had a few drinks and whatever. We went home, and then the next day, a quite petulant Virat Kohli wasn't best pleased and told KP, I think by text message, that your friend Nick must stay away from his girlfriend. So there was a bit of sort of a couple of mixed messages there, or kind of maybe a sort of, one was saying it was ex-girlfriend, one was saying girlfriend. So a few of the boys caught on to this, and you can imagine there was a few words said both ways. But I definitely didn't get a good introduction when I walked out to bat. He had a few words to say to me on the way to the middle, which was funny. Look, it was all in good jest. We just tried to get under his skin, and I think he took himself a little bit too seriously back then, but he's obviously matured a lot now, and he's the world-class player that he is. He's married, and he's obviously doing exceptionally well. But it was something that I always look back with a bit of a wry smile.
Oh, of course you should, right? You don't need to give him an invitation to fire shots, and here you are, Nick Compton, waving the line of fire. Did you listen to that message, though? That's the only thing. I'll end that conversation there. Did you listen to that message and actually stay away? Is what I want to know.
I did stay away. Yes, I did. I mean, she's a lovely girl, but we had business and we were playing cricket, and it was nothing more than just having a good chat, and she was sweet and very good looking girl. I mean, you would expect nothing less of the Indian captain, but
So there you go. You have it from Nick Compton. I'm sure he looks back at it with, like he says, a wry smile. But what a tour that was. I mean, I'll be honest, Compo, I've worked with many cricketers, and I get that many of them look back at their careers with regrets, with highs, lows. Or if I had been given XYZ support, I would have probably played more. If I had this, I would have played more. I mean, I always tell them as a non-cricketer and a hardcore cricket fan, how many of us want to play and we don't get to play. And you look at you guys, if I could trade many things for just one cap, right? So if you've managed to get 15, 16 in your case, or even 5, 10, 20, whatever. So that's a life, that I would swap in a heartbeat. So, and if in that you manage perhaps one of the most iconic series from a visiting team in India, then that tops it off. So I must talk about that, because I don't think we can recall a more complete, more impressive, more high caliber performance than that England team in 2012 in India.
Yeah, and I mean, I would second that. I mean, firstly, coming to India is any young cricketer's dream. I came on many tours with Middlesex, pre-season tours with England camps to learn the art of playing spin in Mumbai, etc. And you know, India, apart from its cricketing, its love of cricket and the people, just as a place to visit, as a country to travel. You know how much I love getting out and about and mixing it with people in India, and I love the country. So I think for me to go there and make my debut was literally a dream come true. I mean, you cannot go somewhere where cricket is celebrated as much as India. So I think arriving, my expectations, I try to be quite realistic with expectations. I think there were 4 test matches, and I think if I thought before, look, if I play all 4 test matches, that's kind of achievement in itself, because it's a tough place to be. And if I'm walking out to bat in the 4th test match, well, I've clearly done well enough in the previous 3 to warrant that opportunity. So I try to just do that. And I think if you look at the team behind me, it was kind of a learning curve for me in terms of, you know, this was a fantastic team. You know, you look at the names of Peterson, Trott and Swan and Broad and Anderson and all these guys. And, you know, I just wanted to do my bit. I mean, I was quite focused on, and I thought to myself as well, looking back at some of the other Indian tours and teams that had played there, you know, the spin was obviously a threat. You know, you go to India and immediately people talk about playing spin. And I backed myself technically against spin. And I thought, you know what, if there's a job I can do for that England team is to bat for a long period of time. I mean, look, it's not going to get easier if I try and play a few shots early on. It's not going to get easier if I'm out early on. It's only going to get easier the longer I spend out there. And if I'm out there, you know, the Indian bowlers are toiling for longer, and it gives the ball a chance to get older. And then, of course, KP and these stroke players can come in and find it easier. So it's not rocket science, but that was kind of my method to the madness. And, you know, obviously Alistair Cook played amazingly. You know, Kevin Peterson was extraordinary in Mumbai. And then, of course, the spinners, you know, were at the top of their powers. So it was a fantastic tour. I mean, you know, I think hitting those winning runs in Mumbai when I remember we had 51 runs or something to win the test match. And I remember Graham Gooch, our batting coach, when we came back into the changing room, and, you know, had that 10-minute sort of period, or I think maybe it was tea or lunch or something. And you could see he was kind of walking around a little bit nervously, wanted to speak to me, but then also probably didn't want to speak to me because he wanted me to be clear-headed. And I remember just turning to him and saying, Graham, don't worry about it. I got this. Because I just knew I'd made my mind up like 10 minutes before the 9th wicket or 10th wicket that I was going to go out there and I was just going to smash it. Like I wasn't going to try and fiddle about. And it was nice to play a bit more free and to just get the game done. And my mother came over and watched the test match. And look, it was a special experience. And, you know, as you say, if I only played in that series and never played again, you know, if you'd offered me that before my test career, I would have taken it.
All right, brilliant. I've got S African 55 says, "Hi Nick, regards from the Colonial Cavaliers in Boston."
Yes.
Yeah, fond memories. Do you know someone
Fond
there?
memories. I played a cricket tournament in Philadelphia, of all places, and it was about 4 days, and those boys were there, and it was actually great fun. Yeah, really good. I mean, believe it or not, there's a really good cricket community over there, and some beautiful cricket pitches as well. So. Philadelphia, that's the heart of cricket. In fact, I think one of the first cricket tours was to Philadelphia back in the 1800s. So there is a cricket history there.
Wow, you've educated us. You've educated me certainly on this one. Well done. This one is I'm not going to say who it's from because it was sent to me earlier, but I think you'll get it easily. So the anonymous sender wants me to ask Compo why he went to Somerset from Middlesex and who took him there and how that came about. Let's see what he says.
Oh, I think it was a difficult one. I'd been at Middlesex since as a young boy. I mean, my grandfather was the president there when I came over as a 12, 13-year-old. And, you know, he walked me around Lord's. And you can imagine, you know, any young kid's dream to play at Lord's, to walk out to bat there. And, I was very fortunate to get a contract out of school. John Embry was my coach, the England off spinner.
Yes.
And... yeah, I would say that it was kind of an interesting sort of upbringing there. I guess I had some good moments, some perhaps not so good moments. And as you do as a youngster, you sort of have your peaks and troughs and you're sort of finding your way. And I think I think I was about 26 when there'd been a bit of instability at the club. We hadn't done very well in terms of the fact we were stuck in the second division. I'd had quite a good season. Angus Fraser had come back as director of cricket. And, I really enjoyed playing under him in that year. But I guess there comes a point in everyone's career where I think partly from a perspective of having a family reputation there, I also wanted to find out a little bit more about myself. And I think Somerset at the time, I'd built up a relationship with Justin Langer, who I found quite inspirational at the time. Someone that I could relate to, who wasn't your sort of Brian Lara's or your Tendulkar's, was someone that, obviously worked incredibly hard at his batting, was a bit of a legend, but who could talk in real depth about, the art of opening the batting, the art of fronting up. There was a real fight and a determination to him. And I think I probably saw some of those characteristics in myself. So I think one thing led to the next in terms of that relationship. And Brian Rose approached me at the end of 2009. And I just thought it was the right time to go to a team that was literally at the top of the first division.
Sure.
And I think it paid off. I mean, when I went down there, there was no doubt it was a big step up. You had the likes of Trescothick, who had, just retired from international cricket. You had, the Keyswetters, the Butlers coming through. You had Alfonso Thomas, who was obviously a fantastic white ball bowler. And you had a lot of players at the top of their powers. And I think for me, it was a sink or swim moment. Can I answer that question of being able to make this team and to contribute to this team? And I think Brian Rose helped hugely. I mean, I feel very indebted to him because he was very, very clear about what he wanted me to do. And I think I responded to that. I think there was a bit of a South African kind of, nature in the sense that I quite liked authority to be
Sure.
very clear about what they wanted. And, that was to bat. And he just said, don't get out, just bat. And I sort of thought to myself, well, if that's what you want, that's coming up. So I got very stubborn and very resolute with that.
Are you following the comments, Kampo? Because there's somebody who's not very pleased with your answer. He
Really?
thinks he's indicating it's incomplete. He's a Somerset legend in himself. So Karthik is going, excuse me again, excuse me, and he says, how did Brian Rose approach you?
No,
And then
that's
he says,
true. No,
hello, me.
Kartik was a big part of that. I mean, look, let's be honest. When I went down there, I didn't know anyone, and I think having someone like him, and this isn't just because I know he's listening, etc., but have someone like him with his experience, with the fact that he has played around the world, sitting next to me in the change room made a huge difference. And there's no doubt that I'm sure he put a little backhanded word to the director of cricket and to the coach to get me down there. And look, you look back and you think it changed my career. I made it. I really sort of pushed on to another level down there, and Kartik had a big influence. It's nice having an ally, someone who didn't always give me an easy time, but I think he did it for my own best needs. Brilliant.
Fine, Karthik. I hope you have it. You've literally forced that answer out of Compo, but I think it did come across as sincere. James Suter, he says hello. So that takes me to my next question, and how photography's come about, and it seems to have become one of your passions. I don't know if it's off late or if it's always been. Tell me about that.
It's always been a passion. I think, not granddad. My father grew up and was very much into photography, PR. He did a lot of work with nature conservation. He was a wildlife TV presenter here in South Africa for a number of years. So there was always that kind of getting out into the outdoors. And he liked connecting with people. I think different cultures and photography was a part of what he did. So my mother's an artist. So I think there's always been a visual, creative side to me through family. I go back to India really, and it was after that Mumbai Test match where the next day a very good friend of mine, Philip Brown, who's a Reuters photographer, a very well-known sports photographer, he's an excellent photographer, and he said to me, let's take our cameras the next morning. Well, most were nursing hangovers. I got up at about 6 a.m. and we walked the streets of Mumbai. We went down to the main train station, and that kind of was where I almost remember that as well as I do hitting the winning runs in that test match. I think just the colors and the people coming down, setting up the markets in the morning. And, this was India. And I think for me, that's always been a way of getting away perhaps from the pressures as such. I think that, people will see, some people play PlayStation, some, go and do exercise and run and hike and stuff. I just found photography a very good way to mindfully really get in touch with your surroundings and take in everything. And yeah, it's gone from strength to strength. I mean, I've taken my camera to all the wonderful countries I've played in, and there's no better feeling than thinking you really saw a country. I mean, I'd hate to go to India and just say I saw the inside of the Taj Hotel. You know what I mean? I
Sure.
want to see the country,
Yeah, yeah. And was it the love for art that prompted the very beautiful nude photo shoot a few years
that
back?
one.
When that was...
Yeah, I'm not sure that had anything to do with artwork. I think, just there was a few requests, what can I say, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And is it there on your Instagram? May I point that out for viewers who haven't seen it to just go and have a look? Is it there, or will they have to find it online?
I think it did go up. I wasn't sure if it was the best post to be putting up, but I think it is down there somewhere, Compton, so you can have a look at it. But
yeah, I'm sure.
I think there's some more beautiful photography out there. Maybe just give that a miss.
No, I couldn't help but remember that now when you were talking about it. But brilliant. Karthik is just spamming this InstaLive, and he's very disgruntled, I think, right now. He says, I was the one who spoke to him as I became the overseas player. He says, hello, Campo, we were at Middlesex, and when I went there, you and Ed Smith weren't getting along. Jesus, Karthik, you're letting loose, aren't you? It's still incomplete. Unfortunately, I can't speak up, only right. I spoke to Rosie as you wanted to move, and coincidentally, they wanted an opener, as JL was replaced by me. My goodness. Ooh, I think we just need to. I'm going to give you a minute now to dedicate your entire life to Karthik, so we can move on to the rest of it. Kompo.
Karthik, I thank you. Moving on. No, it's true. It's true. No. What he says is true. He did help me hugely. I think you never know what's going on behind the scenes, but there's no doubt Karthik has always been a big supporter and a fan. And I think obviously what he said to them was a big reason why I went down there and had that opportunity. But I'm still better at him in golf, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, let it be decided in that front, shall we? Let's just leave it at that. But Karthik, I'm going to now move on from your impact on Nick Compton's life, as massive as it was, and it's brilliant that we could sense and feel the banter for whoever's watching. But I'm going to go to a fun part now. What I do with everyone who I get on these Insta Lives, it's a rapid fire, Nick. So you know what it is. It's quite simple. I fire something at you, and you say the first thing that comes to mind. And if he says something that gets you into trouble, then brilliant, right? So you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Okay, Gampo, if you weren't a cricketer, what do you think you would have been?
Male model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. You might still actually. You never know.
I'm past it.
If you had to pick one Aussie cricketer to spend the lockdown with, who'd you pick?
Phil Hughes, my good friend Phil Hughes. Rest in peace, buddy. But one of the best friends I've had on the cricket field, and somebody that I probably had some of my best days with, and I still look over him very fondly.
Brilliant. If you had to pick one South African cricketer to spend the lockdown with, who'd you pick?
Hashim Amla. Grew up with him, played cricket at school with him, and a man that I admire hugely, very inspirational, and what a batsman, what a fine player, so and a top man.
Brilliant. One food item you cannot get enough of?
I would say sweet potato.
Okay, it's so quintessentially British in a way.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, it's still one step better than when I had Ashley Giles on, and he thought for the longest time it said bread. I said the whole wide world of food, and Ashley Giles came up with bread. But anyway, I think I've lost you again. Come on, Campo. Your internet shouldn't be giving up on me. This is the best part of the whole show. Waiting for this to sort itself out. Waiting. We've got rid of Campo. Well, let's try and get him back, shall we? This has been great, hasn't it? You can't have one of my Insta Lives without a little bit of, with some sort of challenge. In the meantime, some of my family's greeting each other here because that's what you do on these Insta Lives, isn't it? Let's hope Campo joins back. Thank you to all of you who are still watching. And hopefully I will get the wonderful Nick Compton back on sooner rather than later. I think Karthik's done. He's probably going to buzz off now. Yes, my cousin has sent me a join request, Abby. But yeah, I'm just going to wait and see if I can manage Nick Compton. Let's complete his rapid fire. Yeah, that's one way of going about it. All right, let me just send him a text and see if I can have him back. Karthik's still here. Good to see you, Karthik. Maybe I should just get you on now, and you can, in full bhadas, nikalo your whatever you've got on Compton on not agreeing to your to what you expected at least from his answer. So let me just send Compo a text and see if he's joining back. Right, trying to figure out what he's faffing. Well, I thank my rather committed family because without them, this would have been just me and Compo and Karthik, I think. So thank you to all of you watching. Let's see if he is back. I'm gonna try and find him. I'm guessing that Compo's lost his battery because that's the only thing I can explain it. So I will wait. Given that I want to put this up at the end of the day on YouTube and on IGTV as well, so there's no problem. You got me back now for a little while. So yes, Karthik is now having some nice exchanges with the wonderful Mr. Prakash Iyer, my uncle and a celebrated author. So yeah, he's back on the golf course. He's a fancy man. I mean, they open up golf courses for him in Gurgaon, so why not? Shresh says, yeah, didn't see that Hughes answer coming. Yeah, it was a nice moment as well. Even I wasn't expecting that, but lovely to hear Philip Hughes, for the first time in a long time. And yeah, it was of course the incident of Phil Hughes that changed a lot of conversations in cricket. It changed the way we look at equipment and protection. So lovely answer that from Nick, and good friend of his. So I'm just going to wait on a few more minutes because even my WhatsApp text I'm going through to Nick Compton. In the meantime, you could have a Q&A with Murli Karthik because he's right here. If you didn't get enough of him when he was on my Insta Lives a few weeks back. So there's that. And it's nice to see that I still have you guys. In fact, the viewership seems to have gone up by 1 or 2 since Nick Compton left. So I'll probably tell him that when he's back. But that's the power of Murli Karthik's comments. They alone can keep you captivated. So well done, Karthik. What else have we got? Right. Ravdeep saying as well, let Karthik answer the rapid fire questions on Nick's behalf. Yeah, there he is. He's back. Let's get him on.
Mate, South
Battery.
African Wi-Fi. What can you do? Huh?
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Put in a word with whoever you know in government, in big government over there, man. I'm sure they'll listen to you.
Yeah.
I think they've got bigger problems than the Wi-Fi, but yeah,
true.
All right, let's go back to the rapid fire, right, Campo? I was saying on the food item bit that I had Ashley Giles on a few weeks back, and he thought for ages and eventually said bread. I said the whole wide world of food, and Ashley Giles says, I can't get enough of bread. He laughed himself. He says, that's so boring. That's so him.
That's England's director of cricket.
All right, brilliant.
Karthik, listen, mate, when I come to stay, I want the full treatment, okay? I want free Wi-Fi, I want home-cooked Schwetter meals, and I want free golf as well. So, especially when I beat you as well. It's not going to feel good.
You want to live with Karthik in the same roof after you've beaten him on the golf course. I want to do an InstaLive from there then.
We struggled in the same changing room, so there's no chance we're going to be in the same room.
Okay, I'm going to resume the rapid fire. Yeah, all right, let's go. The best film or web series you've seen off late?
I watched. I think I enjoyed Michael Jordan's Last Dance. Loved it.
Brilliant. Best captain you played under? This could be international or otherwise.
I'm going to say Marcus Trescothick.
Brilliant. The biggest influence on your cricket career?
Oh, I mean, it sounds. I would say Jacques Kallis, actually. Not because I had a personal relationship with him, but I just think as a youngster, he was the player I watched and looked up to.
Brilliant. Smartest cricketing brain, according to you?
Oh, you'd probably have to go with Ed Smith. I'm doing the Masters through him, and I think when you look at somebody from a cricketing perspective, he's a very intelligent man. Good. So
sure. Yeah. Who has the best sense of humor in cricket, according to you?
Murli Karthik, of course. I mean,
oh Jesus! You haven't met enough people, mate.
I know.
All right. One holiday destination you can keep visiting again and again.
I would say Knysna, which is, for those who don't know, it's about 5 hours down the garden route from Cape Town. And it's got some of the best golf courses, and it really is a place that I go back to regularly. So for me, that's like my second home, and I'll be there. If anyone can't find me over Christmas, that's where I'll be.
Brilliant. Good chance we can't get through to you on Wi-Fi, so we'll have to drive down to
Yeah, exactly.
every now and then. All right. One bowler you always enjoyed facing through your career.
Geez, I don't think I enjoyed facing any bowlers because they always got me out. I quite enjoyed. I enjoyed my tussles with Graham Onions. I don't know if you remember him.
Of course, yeah. Played a bit for England, yeah.
Probably 15 Test matches, maybe. Probably should have played a bit more. Was a real competitor, and I think similar ages. Played a lot of county cricket against each other, and we always went up against each other. I think he was the bowler that I didn't want to get me out, and I think I was the batsman he wanted to get out. So, but a very fine bowler in his prime.
Brilliant. Toughest bowler you ever faced?
I would say probably on that Indian series, I found Ashwin really difficult. I think, as a bowler in India, in those conditions, with his control, was very challenging.
All right. One present-day batsman that you would have loved to bat alongside?
I mean, there's quite a few. I really like the look of Marnus Labuschagne, and the reason I say that is because he's tough, because he's a fighter, and I think he's got a fantastic technique, and I think he's got a huge future. There's no doubt about that. And I think he's somebody that I would have loved to have been in the battle with him, I
really like that answer. In the world of sort of the conventional answers are Kohli and Rohit or De Villiers or whatnot, but that's a really good answer. It sums you up as well, right? You want that fighting batsman in the middle.
That's fight, yeah.
Also, I wouldn't want you to say Kohli. I think he's going to call you for a quick single first ball and then.
Yeah, he's not going to run it though. He'll halfway and the big hand will be out. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. One innings you remember most fondly?
I probably remember the innings in Durban. My second coming in the England team, a place that I grew up at. I mean, I spent more days at Durban and Kingsmead than most Test cricketers. My whole childhood was there, and I think got
an 85. I think it was. Yeah,
I got 85, and probably. I think that innings and having family there and going back and what have you, I think we lost 2-3 quick early wickets. Cook was out and Steyn was fired up, and, I fought for my life there, and I think, it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing innings or anything like that, but I had to find a way, and I was chuffed with that performance because we won the Test match. So I think it's I think the whole everything that surrounded that innings was probably something I remember. Yeah,
I mean, it was Steyn, Mockle, Kyle Abbott, I think was at his peak. So it was a bloody good test, and you guys went on to win the series. So I like that answer. Right, let's move on. One sportsman from another sport that you'd love to meet someday.
Well, I'd love to go. I mean, golf's probably the sport that I enjoy most, and I was sort of thinking I really like Henrik Stenson. I think he's obviously got a great sense of humor. He's quite sarcastic, and I think playing with him and someone like Tiger Woods would be a dream come true.
Brilliant. If you had to own one sports team in the world, which one would it be?
I was going to say the Chicago Bulls. No, I'd probably I think it'd probably have to be the Arsenal. I mean, owning the Arsenal and putting together a championship winning team, a Premier League winning team must be the greatest feeling in the world, if you can achieve it.
If it does happen, there's a better chance you'll own it than I would. Just remember me. There's a role for me there. I'm sure you.
Mate, there's definitely a role for you. You could be PR. You could be PR manager.
No. That's too much work. I've got far too much work then. All right. Let's move on. If Nick Compton was made ICC chairman, his first decision would be to.
Get rid of T20 cricket and make Test cricket the most prominent game. No, I'm joking. That's gonna kill every Indian fan. What would I do as an ICC? Oh, gee, I need some time to think about that.
That's all right.
I think reduce the number of games
Sure.
internationally. I think I think there's overkill, and I think I'd really like to bring back, those iconic series where people's appetite really grows and waits for it. So we see the best players in the world ready, prepared, and see some of the best cricket. I think now this is too congested, too much cricket.
Brilliant. Very quickly, if Nick Compton was put in charge of English cricket, his first decision would be to
bring me back at the top of the order, of course. I could be the 15th opening pair for the last 3 years or whatever.
Yeah.
What would I do? I think that I think what I would do is I would separate coaching structures. I think it's too much for one coach to be coaching all forms of the game.
Sure.
I'd like to see the test coach really focus on that and be separate to, say, the one day and T20.
Brilliant. Time to pick series win in India or series win in South Africa, the most satisfying experience.
Do you know what? It's a really tough one. I'm going to say India.
All right. Batting with Cook or batting with KP?
Batting with Cook.
Facing Ashwin or facing Harbhajan? What was tougher?
Ashwin.
4-day tests or 5-day tests?
5-day tests.
Middlesex or Somerset?
Oh. How do I answer that? I can't answer that. I mean, one's ingrained in my family. One was a very good period in my career. I love them both. Sorry.
All right. Coaching or commentary?
Commentary.
Smith or Kohli?
Kohli.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
First thing that comes to mind when I say the IPL.
MSD.
The 2019 Men's World Cup.
England.
The 100.
Not going to work.
All right. I'm sure they're going to ring you up to be one of the faces of the 100 soon.
I just think, I mean, look, it's not about the 100.
No,
I'm
fine,
pretty sure it will work. I think the problem is there's just so many forms of the game now, aren't there?
Yeah. First thing that comes to mind when I say cold pack deals.
Kyle Abbott.
Okay. Stats and data in cricket.
Don Bradman.
Cricinfo.
Raunak.
Oh, brilliant. And the last one is me. So think of something better than Cricinfo then.
Oh, you. What do I think about you? Cheeky?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. That's the first. I've not heard that one before.
Have you not?
But I'll take it. I'll take it.
I think if someone called me cheeky, I thought it was a compliment, actually. It's nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll take it.
Cheeky with good growth. I wish I could get growth like that. I mean, I really can't.
Maybe you want to swap? You want to swap features?
Maybe if I get some growth, Cricinfo will invite me back on as a commentator in the coming series. What do you think?
I think that'll happen sooner rather than later. Mate, this has been brilliant. And when you are back, we'll revisit whichever brewery is still alive and kicking at that time.
Yeah,
whatever. When the world's back to some.
With our masks on, yeah. No, it's been brilliant, mates, and it's really good to catch up with everyone and everyone in India as well. Obviously, a place I can't wait to come back to.
Cheers. Take care of that Wi-Fi, mate. Pay your bills, and I'll see you. I'll see you again soon. You take care, Kampo. This has been brilliant. Thanks so much.
Cheers, buddy. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Right, so that was fun. Challenges as always, but then I expect that in any InstaLive that I do. It's the first time that I'm seeing the countdown clock, so this is probably been the longest that I've had one, considering the tech issue. So I have 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining, which is plenty of time because I have nothing else to say to any of you. So thanks a lot for watching. We've got a few more lined up in this week, so watch out on Instagram for the next one. And until then, thanks for being patient, and we will speak again or meet again soon. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.